It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. He is not here. He has the morning off. Apparently stuck in Buffalo. Apparently it was a blizzard. I didn't know this, but they have blizzards during the winter. I didn't know that. Shut down the entire airport. It's crazy. Apparently there was something going on with the airplanes there. And I know what happened. It's not a technical piece of insight. It actually is what Gary said on the show the other day about his flight. He was talking about going to his family reunion, which, by the way, is great. It's awesome. But we just want to remind Mr. McNamara he has a job. So he's talking on the air this morning, or the other morning, and he says, all right, going to the family reunion, you're going to spend time with Dad. And I think it's cool that they still have so many people showing up to this family reunion. They probably all show up because they have questions for Gary. And he was talking about, this is my schedule. I'm going to fly out on Friday, and then I'll be flying home early Monday morning, and I'll be back plenty of time for the show. Yeah. So I'm working out in the yard, and I missed a call. I came back in the heat. You've got to take a break, and I definitely take breaks. So I came back in, I missed a call, and I was able to listen to the message, and they've got plane maintenance going on there in Buffalo. And then I'm like, okay, no problem. But also when he was on the air the other morning talking about his schedule, he brought up the fact that, hey, am I going to be flying on Boeing aircraft? And apparently every leg of the back and forth was going to be on a Boeing, and it was just a joke. Nothing to fear, I don't believe, overall. However, they did not have enough planes to get the job done, at least getting to back to Dallas for the day. Everything was full, apparently, there in Buffalo. But quite frankly, I blame Gary. I think he has a lot to answer for, and we'll definitely talk to him on the next show, I hope. He's scheduled to be on a flight later this morning, and then I think this one takes him through Charlotte. So if they get off the ground, he'll make it back in plenty of time. Congratulations to my friends in Florida. The Florida Panthers have their first Stanley Cup. Oh, wait, let me start this properly. To my friends in Florida, you have an NHL team, and apparently they're pretty good. Our friends in Edmonton licking their wounds. So there you have it. The cup goes to Florida. I don't know if that's the first time. I know it's the first time for the Panthers. Stars have had it. Because I think in terms of cold climate, warm climate, here in Dallas, we don't. We get some winter. In Florida, they get into the 40s every once in a while, maybe freezing. So you think hockey, you think of Edmonton, you think of Canada, you think of the upper tier, you think of Buffalo, and apparently the Florida Panthers were able to get it done, and congratulations to them. To maybe help you get through it if you're up in Edmonton. Terry, a listener, sent us something from the Babylon Bee. This is pretty funny. The Babylon Bee, USA versus Canada, a fair and unbiased comparison. All right, here we go. First, weights and measures. Canada uses the metric system, just like communist Russia. USA measures everything in touchdowns per AR-15. Ouch. Free speech. Canada can be jailed for misgendering non-binary people, such as Justin Trudeau. USA, jailing people for political reasons? That'll never happen here. Anyway, they go on. It's a very funny piece by the Babylon Bee, and hopefully you see some humor in it if you're in Canada. All right, some stuff to break down from over the weekend. By the way, due to circumstances well within our control, we had the Monday show off. So we gave you a heads up on the Friday show that we weren't going to be here on Monday. Some people maybe didn't listen to the Friday show, and to those people, how dare you? But we took the morning off, and Gary was able to fit in that family reunion and leave no time for work. And we know that there's a lot over the weekend that happened, so we're going to break down as much of it as we can on this show, and then Gary will have stuff to add, I'm sure, when he gets back here for the Wednesday show. A lot going on this week. We got the presidential debate, I think. Well, at least it's scheduled. And the reason I say that is I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how it's going to happen, given what's happened over the last few weeks with President Biden, that he can't handle a few minutes on a stage. And he's going to be on that stage for 90 minutes. Yeah, the moderators, I think, are going to be, well, in part caretakers during that 90 minutes and probably give him a little bit of an advantage, but also have to maybe take note of when he is not performing physically or mentally, and maybe they redirect. I don't know how it's going to work. I have no idea how it's going to work. We have, in fact, a piece on that. Voters say Trump will win the debate, booting Biden off of the 2024 ticket. We'll get into more of this here in a bit. It's from the Washington Examiner. This week's showdown between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump is being hyped as the most critical presidential debate ever. Voters agree, and here's one indication of why they believe a loss by Biden could force the party to kick him off the ticket. All right. We keep hearing this over and over again because it's clear that even those within the party now, his own party, the Democrats, they know that something's wrong. The polls have been pretty consistent for the rank-and-file Democrats. The majority of them didn't want him to be the guy, didn't want him to run again. They wanted somebody else. And we're in a situation now that, well, I don't know how you make it happen. Who are you going to bring in? Hillary? I don't see Hillary accepting that, except for the fact that she would have a built-in excuse if she loses this time to Trump. Again, ouch. But she would be able to say, all right, we didn't have enough time to get a campaign off the ground. In fact, anybody in that position, I don't think it's going to be Kamala Harris, but it's not going to be the governor of California. So who do you go to? Hillary just is the name that's the household name. And if you're gonna throw a Hail Mary, or in this case a Hail Hillary, then that's the one you're going to use, I guess. And again, she's got the built-in excuse. She could also try and play and man, I'm really walking out on the plank on this one because I just don't see how they do this. But I'll tell you right now, I also don't see how Biden makes it day to day because he's just falling apart. There's been a very clear decline, especially in the last couple of months. But since the beginning of this year, there were clips going back and forth over the weekend, by the way. You might have seen them on social media of the debates from 2020. That's a totally different Joe Biden. That is a very different Joe Biden. His decline is clear. I can't tell you what's behind it, but I can tell you right now, most people see it. If you don't see it, you're not looking. So I don't, what Hillary could do, I mean, if they were going to do this, and again, I'm really stretching on what I think is going to happen. I will say that I have less confidence that he's going to be able to perform campaign-wise, Biden, all the way through November 5th. I think his surrogates are going to have to pick up the slack if he's going to stay in it. And there's just no way around that. And they can't be on that debate stage with him. They can't do that for him. So what is it that Hillary could use? She could come in and she could say, I'm the underdog. I know. But if you're a member of this audience, most likely you're a critical thinker and you're laughing, you're scoffing at that. But that's what she could try and use. Hey, well, maybe she borrows from the late John McCain, who in 2008 shouted, "Fight with me." And I don't know. Does she have Bill on the campaign trail with her? I'm voting for RFK Jr. I don't know what you're talking about. Who? Hillary? Oh, I did not vote for that woman. And I just, again, don't have full confidence they're going to pull him out. Because if they do, there's a collapse. And part of that collapse is that it will be confirmation on something that everybody has seen, and too many people at the White House and just surrogates for Biden in general have been saying, nothing's wrong with him. Yeah, you should see him behind the scenes. He's doing one-handed push-ups. He's bench pressing 400 pounds. You know, they want you to believe he's a Superman when you don't see him. And that what you see, you don't actually see. But we do. And too many of us caretakers have seen it. And it's unfortunate that, you know, as we get older in life and our parents get much older, then we quite often have to become caretakers. And we see those moments. I can't tell you what's going on with them, but it's a clear decline. And everybody sees it. He's not fit for office. And I don't know what happens. I don't know about Thursday night. I don't know what this debate is going to look like. I mean, it just is a train wreck waiting to happen. Ronnie Jackson, former White House doctor, is saying that he wants and he's now, by the way, a member of the House of Representatives. My parents live in his district, as do many of my friends here in Texas. And he's calling for Biden to be drug tested before the debate. That's not going to happen. That ain't going to happen. I mean, you do it, I guess, just to do it, but that's not going to happen. Does he have more credibility, Ronnie Jackson? Yes, he does, as a former White House doctor. By the way, not just for Trump, but Obama. Many of the headlines leave that out, that he was also a White House doctor when Obama was there. And so he has that credibility. Again, what are you going to test for? You're going to get into a prescription drug. I mean, all of the stories around the internet, all of the rumors around the internet talk about everything from cocaine to Adderall. If you're to believe them, there's clearly something going on. It could be boatloads of coffee. I don't know. We saw it during the last State of the Union address. That was, he was just shouting for roughly an hour. And is that going to be the case on Thursday night? Is he going to be able to respond to questions and follow-up. Is he going to be able to respond to Trump? They say they're going to turn the microphone off. You can still hear the bleed over if Trump's mic is off and Biden's is on, and the moderators, their mic is going to be on. So Biden can still hear Trump. That's the only thing that matters in terms of any distraction for Biden on the stage. It doesn't matter even if we can't hear Trump, Biden can, and he'll respond accordingly because he does that. That's going to happen. Can he survive that kind of distraction? Man. Can he be up there 90 minutes with 2 breaks? That's all he's got. 2 breaks. Can he do that? I have my doubts. I guess we'll see. All right, we're going to get into some more stuff, some SCOTUS news from the weekend. We'll get into that. In fact, one of the stories is what's on the docket now for, next year. The cases they'll hear in the fall, and then those decisions coming down next summer. So we'll get to that and more. If you want to jump on, we, in fact, invite you in. 866-90 Red-Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. You may already know that retread tires offer a cost savings, but what else do you know about them? You may be surprised to learn that more than 80% of all aircraft tires in the U.S. today are retreads. From fighter jets to school buses, retreads move some of the most important cargo across many industries. They can also help you move your load, too.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara has the morning off. He is back, stranded in Buffalo. Wasn't that an 80s movie? He's back on tomorrow's show. We hope. It looks like other flights were getting out of Buffalo, so I'm sure they'll find him a plane. But apparently everybody was trying to get out of Buffalo on the same day he was. Which, by the way, was a Monday morning. It's not like it was a big holiday weekend yet. So, but there you have it. And he said he's got some stuff to share based on that experience. And I can't wait to hear it. By the way, we were talking about this poll about voters say Trump will win the debate, and it will mean that the Democrats will boot Biden off the 24 ticket. So it's from Rasmussen Reports by a margin of 47 to 37. Likely voters see Trump beating Biden. And, all right, in fact, it's a poll that has slightly more Democrats than Republicans responding in its sample. So Rasmussen found that 57% believe Biden is more likely to have problems in the debate because of his age. Just 32% said age will undermine Trump. Trump is 78. Biden is 81. I guess we'll see. That debate coming up Thursday night on CNN. 866-90 Red Eye.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
I'm Eric Harley, Gary McNamara. Let's try that again. Are we recording? Okay. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara has the morning off, and he's back with us on the Wednesday show. Let's see here. So we'll have Wednesday, Thursday, probably again previewing the debate, what might go down. The president, by the way, is at Camp David and prepping for not only prepping for the debate, also taking canoeing classes. They're going to do some penny art where you take pennies and, you make something and you glue it to and it's summer camp. But we'll see how that prep works out for the president. I don't know. I actually don't know. I just don't have the confidence he's going to be able to stay on that stage for 90 minutes. They built in 2 breaks. I don't know how long those breaks are, actually. I'd have to look that up. I don't even know if they've said at CNN how long they'll be. But we'll see. Also, Trump talking about his VP and implying that person, actually saying that person would likely be there at the debate Thursday night. I tend to believe he says things just to get the media going. But it would make sense. There are 4 people vetted so far that we know of. That's been reported in the media. Christy Noem, by the way, says she's not one of those. She did not receive any vetting materials. It's really not a surprise there. We'll get into more of that coming up. But and what the debate could look like, and also that Veep slot for Trump, who fits there. And he said, I think he's made it pretty clear, he's not going to say it. They're not going to reveal it, rather, until closer about the time of the convention, that's typical. That's how it's done. 866-90 Red Eye if you want to get in. Let's go to Patricia in D.C. Patricia, you're on. Good morning.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's about time to call out Joe Biden. I mean, she's known since 2019 that he's not mentally capable, and she knows now that he absolutely is not. She's been on The View. The Washington Post has done a big article on her. She's trying to get the senior vote. But this isn't just gaslighting. This is lying to the American people. And when Rosalind Carter died, she was praising Rosalind for her work on behalf of mental health. And yet, Jill Biden is pushing this mentally incapable man to be president. I mean, some people have called her power hungry on other talk shows. Because first ladies do have a lot of power.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my opinion, and I'll hang up and let you tell me.
Okay. I appreciate it, Patricia. Thank you for calling from the nation's capital, and I'll say it. First of all, I agree that if it turns out that there's something wrong with the president, I don't know what it is, but in any situation like that, yes, Jill Biden, his wife, I think has the greatest responsibility, not only as a caretaker, but also as First Lady. But if there is no concern about the safety of a nation, then why act on that second part? I mean, as caretaker, I'm a caretaker myself. I know. I have made, in fact, a life over 20 plus years of being a caretaker. And I have a special needs adult daughter. I have 2 members of my family right now with dementia, one with advanced dementia. We were able to spend some time with her over the weekend, and it was a great weekend. She looked great. We took her out for the day, had some lunch, and spent some time with her, and it was really great. And there are decisions that have to be made by the caretakers as a group. And quite often it's the children, but it can also be the spouse. My family member that has advanced dementia does not have a spouse. He passed away, and well over a year ago, and so, but he had come to us, and so it was those difficult decisions. They're confused as to why they need help. They're confused as to why they might have to live in a care center full time. They're confused as to why they can't get their keys and go somewhere. It's and there's resentment and anger, and that's all part of it. And it's extremely difficult to witness firsthand, because you know that the person is suffering, and in those lucid moments, sometimes you actually are led to believe, your mind will trick you that, especially early on, that nothing is wrong and that it's actually okay, and maybe it was a misdiagnosis. Maybe everyone else has it wrong. And it's just such a cruel situation. Dementia is a cruel disease. And if that's what's going on with the president, whatever's going on with the president, the first lady is the primary caretaker. But if there's an agenda, you got to get it done. I mean, you ask yourself, okay, what if he wins? What if he wins? What if he were to win? It is possible that he wins again. I'm just going to say that. Right now, the polls don't look good. I'm hoping, in fact, the polls are favoring Biden. I mean, the ones where Trump is winning, especially in those battleground states. I hope that he's winning by even more. I hope it's more of a situation like Iowa, where he's leading by 18 points, where it should be. Gary and I have talked about this. This is where the poll should be. And because of everything that's going on right now, and you look at the polls of the rank and file constituent American, and even breaking it down by party, and Democrats know it. The border, inflation. And by the way, on the border issue, the gruesome murder and story of two men who brutally murdered a 12-year-old in Houston, Texas. It makes my blood boil and my eyes water at the same time. And people see this. And it's why you also see that even Democrats, many Democrats favor mass deportation. I don't know logistically how you get that done, but that's the sentiment, that's the point, is the sentiment of where the American people are and how it will influence the election. And Biden loses that all day. On the border, he loses it all day long, and Trump wins it. Trump started that in 2016. I think there's a better chance that a wall would be built during a second Trump term than ever before. I didn't think they were going to get it done the first time because, number one, I didn't think the Republican Party all of the Republican Party would cooperate with then President Trump to get it done. And I was right about that. They didn't. Now, as someone who spent many years as a young person in Del Rio, living on the border and all the issues down there, friends in the Border Patrol, Raul Ortiz is now retired. I went to high school with Raul. He was a chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, a very good, outstanding Border Patrol agent, and I have other friends that are doing that job, and it's a thankless job. And I've said this in the past. On a wall, can they circumvent a wall? It depends on the wall you're going to build. And, yeah, they can at times, but that goes back to the enforcement. So I leave it up to the head of the Border Patrol. not people like Mayorkas, by the way. The person who's in charge of the boots on the ground. The boots on the ground need to tell us what they need, and we need to provide it. And also, if the American people want mass deportation, well, we can begin the process. And for these two evil human beings responsible for the killing of this girl in Houston, they've been charged with capital murder. And they deserve, if convicted and found guilty, they deserve the death penalty. Period. And this is that case, I believe, is just one more reason for the Louis C.K.'s of the world. Go back and listen to the podcast from last week about Louis C.K. and his comments. We should just open the border. We got things that are too good here in this country. You're a moron. You're an absolute moron. And it's a slap in the face to those that are grieving the loss of a 12-year-old girl. This is a situation you're not going to win politically if you're Joe Biden. It's not. Inflation, that hits every day, every single day. Inflation rate has come down. Prices have not. And people just have a tendency to say, oh, I wish it was like it was, way back in the day. Well, on this one, on pricing at grocery stores and retail level, you don't have to go to way back in the day. You go back to 2019. And when you go back to 2019, your mind is, wow, look what I paid for this. I found receipts, actually. I made the comparison on a couple of things, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. And I also looked at things that I bought, larger purchases that I bought in 2019, and was helping a family member through a similar purchase, and I couldn't believe the difference in price of what I paid and what they're going to have to pay if they buy it. These are things that just every single day the American people are absolutely over the top aware of. This is reality. This isn't an abstract idea. Hey, if we do this, then this will happen. Well, the Democrats have been benefiting from the abstract for a long time. Hey, if we just do this, this will happen. But reality delivers something that you can't debate. They try. They try and tell you what you're experiencing, you're not experiencing. The economy's fine. The president is fine. And all of these items here that are clear to many of us. The question is how many? I said it a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that we have to remember that not all the voters think like us. And I don't mean just politically left and right. I mean where you're steeped in the issues every single day, or where, how much is it a driver in your life? Inflation, the border, and everything else. There are people out there where that's not going to be their number one issue. I guess we'll see how many. November 5th. Debate and more. Joe Biden's health, his age. If you want to get in, we do have room for you. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. We're Red Eye Radio. It isn't Red Eye Radio. We're Red Eye Radio. We being Gary McNamara, who has the morning off. Not this morning, he's not Red Eye Radio. He's just Gary McNamara. And I'm Eric Harley. We'll talk more about what's going on with Gary. He's trapped in Buffalo. And it wasn't a John Candy movie. I was thinking it was a John Candy movie, but it wasn't. And he's got some stories to tell about his little dilemma about being delayed and then eventually having to book a flight the next day. Actually, I think it's okay that he gets a little extra time with his dad. But that's just me. All right, stand by. Have a number of people on hold here who want to chime in about the debate, Biden's age, the issues that are going on right now with the border, inflation, and everything else that's driving the election, and also Trump's Veep pick. Who might that be? And Trump implies that person will be at the debate Thursday night.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara has the morning off. We'll talk about why here coming up. 866-90 Red Eye if you want to join us. Looks like we do have a full board, but keep trying to get through 866-90 Red Eye. Talking about the Thursday night debate. The CNN debate will be on CNN, and it will also be on News Nation. But it will be, of course, the first time since 2020 we've had Donald Trump and Joe Biden on stage together and going at each other. We brought up a poll that says, from Rasmussen Reports, that says 47% of respondents believe, these are likely voters, that Trump will beat Biden. 47 to 37 is the margin. And the sample, by the way, includes slightly more Democrats. Rasmussen also found that 57% believe Biden is more likely to have problems in the debate because of his age. 32% said Trump will have problems because of his age, and I don't see Trump slowing down. He hasn't flinched through all of this. His the stuff in the courthouse on the special prosecutor case. We'll get into that here a little bit later, and an update on that. I think that's, by the way, just ridiculous. The thought of another gag order. Trump's defense attorneys did say something that really rings true, and that is that a special prosecutor has unlimited funds. It's basically their budget is whatever they say it is. They can take this as far as they want to take it, and we'll see. But we'll get back into that and more. The thoughts on the debate on Thursday night. I have my questions as to how they're going to, how Biden is going to get up there for 90 minutes, and also how Biden is going to respond to Trump, because there will be. I don't care what they say about turning the mics off. Biden can still hear Trump with the mic off. And there's not going to be, they can make their own notes on the fly. They can't bring notes. There's not going to be a teleprompter. So basically what you have is a couple of moderators from CNN that of course, are going to favor Joe Biden. I suspect now, not only are they going to favor him by being biased, as they are, both of the moderators have been very clear about going after Trump. There's Man, there was a lot of stuff over the weekend, social media stuff. Jake Tapper going after Trump, and all the times he's done that. We've all seen it. We know it. We already know this. But I also suspect that the moderators are going to have to be babysitters, caretakers for Joe Biden if he has a moment. So here's my question. They say they're going to have 2 breaks. I don't know how long those breaks are going to be. In my mind, I have 5 minutes. I don't know why I have 5 minutes in my mind. I just think to myself, okay, a 5-minute break would be, take 5. I don't know. If something is going on with the president on stage and he doesn't have Obama there to kind of snap him out of it, pull his arm and help him walk off stage, do they go to a break all of a sudden? If they do that, that debate is over. And Trump is a winner by default, but it's not that kind of win. And I think you know what I mean by that. If they have to break, we're going to take a break and come back and give the candidates time to. I don't know that they will, but if they do, it's over. And if those respondents in the poll who also believe that if that happens, if it's a bad showing for Biden, many of those respondents in this Rasmussen Reports poll say that they believe that, the party, the Democratic Party, is going to have to do something and boot him off the ticket. But I'll tell you right now, it all starts with an unexpected break, an unscheduled break on Thursday night. Because here's my question on that. Let's say they're talking, Biden is talking, and then all of a sudden he freezes or just gets lost. He's just mumbling. If he's having a moment and you're the liberal moderators, you kind of want to help him. There's 2 ways to do that. What Obama did, grab him by the arm when he freezes and then walk with him off stage. Or in this case, you go to a break. Let's give both candidates a 5-minute break, unscheduled. If that happens in the wake of a moment that Biden has on that stage, that debate is over right at that moment. Can they come back and Biden still finish the debate? I mean, technically, yeah. But if they go to a break, it's over. So I guess we'll see. I don't have confidence based on the last couple of weeks, what we've seen from Biden in the last couple of weeks. I said it from the beginning when we noticed a decline, a clear decline with him. I said he has to be on the world stage, and he can't be on the world stage. And I also said traveling is going to be a problem for him. And Normandy proved to be a problem. And it's not getting any better. And if there is a cognitive issue with Biden, if it is dementia, then one of the problems that the patient has is unfamiliar surroundings. So sometimes their own home that they've lived in for years can, to them, seem unfamiliar. But something that is actually unfamiliar, if they're traveling, becomes especially scary. And I've seen it. And we were, in fact, directed, and it was suggested that the person have a regular routine and remain in that routine with few exceptions. And if they're going to be going out, and venture beyond where they live, then they need to have familiar people with them. That's the best you can do. Biden is a president and has to travel across the globe. He has to be he's always on the world stage. When you're the president, that's how it works. And it's getting harder and harder. And the debate stage could be this test. This could be the test right here. I mean, I don't know if anybody else needs evidence or proof. I mean, I don't. But for those few people that haven't been watching, if they watched the debate and it falls apart on Thursday night, I don't know where the Democrats go. I got to be honest with you. I don't know, because then you've got coming up next month the DNC. So where do you go? How do you make that happen? The DNC is a lot easier because he's on stage with prompter. He's up there one night, and while the whole thing, is kind of a marathon for that week, what's required of him is different than a debate stage. So we'll see. And I just think it's interesting to look at this and consider how bad the decline has been just in recent weeks. Because I think it was a little over a week ago, I was saying, look, right now, he's the guy. He's the guy. They're not going to replace him. They're not going to replace him. I don't know what's going to happen now. After the last 2 weeks, I really don't. 866-90 Red Eye. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Sue is on. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome.
I am just calling in. I am definitely no medical expert, but I recently, within the last 6 months, have lost my husband to dementia. The signs are very evident in watching the president. As I said, again, I'm no expert, but the symptoms of losing his thought in mid-sentences, my husband lost complete use of trying to find his words. The freezing is very obvious, as I would have to almost snap him out of wherever he was. And I feel, and I guess this is where I'm having a lot of trouble, is when you have a family that they have to understand and see that no power or prestige, they have to be able to realize that it's time, that he is released from this. And like I said, it's very hard as a caretaker, but they have to see what's going on. I mean, they have to.
Yeah.
The symptoms are very obvious. So I just wanted to call in. I was his caretaker for over a year and a half, and it's just very obvious. So I'm
sorry you have had to go through that, Sue. I know as a spouse that must be especially hard. We were trying to convey that. Gary and I were trying to convey some of the symptoms that we see, both having experience. But your experience as a spouse is especially important, I think, here. And you talk about those freezing moments, and they're very real. Often they happen when, like, the person turns around, if they turn around in a room, or if they're if they're out away from home or something. But it can happen in any moment. And one of the things that was evident at that fundraiser the night that Obama pulled on his arm a little bit. He tugged on his arm a little bit. Because and this is important to still discuss because people were having the debate online whether or not he froze, and he clearly froze. And
Absolutely.
I even saw. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just there's just no faking it. I'm sorry, no matter what the media says.
Yeah.
The symptoms are very obvious. The one thing that they keep kind of covering up is his gait, his walk.
Yeah.
And my husband struggled to walk. His gait got very difficult, very limping, and trying to stay on his feet. And I don't know how much longer they can hide it. It's just too obvious.
Well,
too obvious.
And that's it. We look at the I've mentioned his walk is much, much different. You see it where he is either shuffling or there is a deliberate up and down movement of each foot as he's walking, and it's not heel to toe. Sometimes it is, but there are moments where his walk has clearly been affected, and I can't tell you, like you, I am not a medical expert, but many of us caretakers know what we're looking at. And it is important that that the truth to the American people be known.
Right.
This is there's nothing more critical right now than that. And do I want Biden to drop out and somebody else to come in? No. There's not a win here. There's the thing is that it's not. I mean, if Trump wins, I think he's going to win on his merits. It's not going to be because Biden is old. And I'm hopeful that he can get back to doing, what we were doing before during his first 4 years. And we'll see if that happens. I do want Trump to win. But in terms of the cognitive issues with the current president, this is not about winning or losing. It's about whether or not he's competent to do the job as commander-in-chief. And it's that simple.
Yes, and I never, ever wish any ill will on anybody to go through this horrific disease, but there's a time and place, and now it's time.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to call in, and, as
Sue.
a widow,
well,
you're very welcome.
Yeah, well, we'll keep you in our prayers. Thank you, Sue. We greatly appreciate your call and your input. 866-90-RED-EYE. Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper or your carrier if you're leased about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara has the morning off. He is back with us on the Wednesday show. Got stuck in Buffalo. He jinxed it. He shouldn't have said anything. He jinxed it. Talking about it, his trip last week, saying, I'm getting on the plane Monday morning very early, and I'll be back in plenty of time for the show. Listen, you guys should know that he doesn't take vacations. It's very seriously, he doesn't take vacations. He's always taken his time off, at least part of his time off, each time to go see his family. His parents, his mom passed, as you probably already know, a few years ago, but his dad is still doing great, and they had a family reunion, and so it's all good. And I told him, I said, hey, you get a little extra time with your dad. So he was able to go back to the house and hang out with his dad a little bit longer, and that's never a bad thing. He says he has some stories to tell us about the delay, and I want to hear that. And a customer service story. Ooh, I definitely want to hear that. More of your calls coming up right after the break. 866-90 Red Eye.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
Eric Harley, Gary McNamara has the morning off. He is back with us on the next show, we hope. He's stranded in Buffalo, but he's got a flight out this morning, goes through Charlotte, and hopefully it will be on time and he can get back home. That's got to be frustrating. I've only spent an entire day in an airport one time, and it was my fault. I flew to Virginia on business, and it was back in the day when you had to have your paper ticket with you. For those under the age of 70, you used to have a paper ticket in your hand, and I left it in the hotel room. Had to go back and get it, and I missed my flight. And I was sitting there at the D.C. airport and at Reagan Airport in D.C. on Father's Day for 13 hours. My own fault. But I'm sitting there just kind of staring off into the horizon in a chair, waiting, for my flight that evening. And it was about midday, and this guy sitting there in this pale pink blazer looks over at me. He's got the paper in front of him, the newspaper in front of him in his face, so I kind of had noticed, but wasn't paying attention. And then he folds up the newspaper and kind of points it in my direction. Would you like to read the paper? It was Art Buchwald. And I was thinking, should I have him sign it for me? And then I thought, well, no, that's his paper. He'll probably take it back. So, yeah. But hopefully Gary is back with us on the next show. We believe he will be. I shouldn't jinx it. I should stop talking about it and move on. Talking about the debate coming up on Thursday night on CNN and News Nation. It's a CNN debate. And new Rasmussen Reports survey by a 47 to 37% margin. Likely voters see Trump beating Biden in the debate. And 34% of Democrats said they believe the first presidential debate is Biden's last chance to show some life in the campaign. If he loses that third of Democrats, that 34% believe that Biden should be replaced on the ticket. Man, I really, if I were a gambling man, and I am, I would still put the dollar on, no, it's better to weekend at Bernie's this thing until November 5th. Because the collapse wouldn't be just Joe Biden. It would be admitting something's wrong with Joe Biden when they've been saying nothing was wrong with Joe Biden. That fallout, while secondary, would still be part of that story. It's going to happen eventually, but get through November 5th. And if I'm going to put a dollar down, that's where I put it. However, I would say those chances do have shifted in the last couple of weeks with me. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. Thursday night is going to be a huge. Producer Alan saying, I bet the ratings are through the roof, and I think he's right. I think they will be. I think it's going to be huge. Presidential debates tend to draw in a lot of people, but this year's on the issues alone. But then the whole rematch thing, that's a thing with people. But then it's going to be people wanting to see if Biden can perform. And that's a good reason to tune in. 866-90 Red Eye. I mentioned weekend at Bernie's. Speaking of Bernie's, let's go to Anthony in Pennsylvania. Anthony, you're on Red Eye Radio. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Yes, Hillary's not going to want to run because Bill's going to say, hey, we're making too much money off these suckers on speaking tours and book tours.
Yeah.
Michelle is making a ton of money on her book tours. She doesn't want to go back through all that. Mm-hmm. They're going to pick Bernie because Bernie appeals to the young radicals. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to use the convention as a trial run for who's going to run in 4 years, and it's probably going to be one of the Democrat governors not named Hochul.
I think there's some of that. I think there will be. I mean, you go back to the 2004 convention for the Democrats, and Barack Obama spoke there, and so
that's right. He was the keynote speaker.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so. While he wasn't governor, he was the rising star in their party at that point. While most people didn't really know who he was. In fact, that was kind of the beginning of the vetting, I think, for mainstream America on Barack Obama. And then it picked up from there. It also is the year that Hillary quit saying, oh, stop it, I'm not going to run. Stop it, I'm not going to run, when we all knew she was going to run eventually. And then 2008 came around, and it got down to, in the primary, Hillary and Obama for the Democrats. I don't know. Look, the whole Bernie theory, I think, is an interesting one because it could be the mea culpa for the 2016 set of events where we found out this from the email leak from the DNC that they were. Let Bernie go out to the states on the West Coast and do really well, but he's not going to be the nominee. We're going to usher Hillary in, and so after that fallout, and then you saw his supporters at the convention. They were livid. That was really only the first day. I don't know who wrangled them in and got them up. Maybe it was Bernie. I'd have to go back and read up on it, but. That was so that would serve as a mea culpa of listen, we're sorry we did this to you, Bernie. You're not going to beat Trump, but we're going to let you be the nominee. I don't see that happening, but it would be fun to watch if it's going to go down that way. Yeah, thank you, Anthony. We appreciate the call. 866-90 Red Eye. Trump says his Veep pick is going to be at the debate Thursday night. Then again, all of the four who have been vetted are probably, there's a good chance they would all be there, wouldn't they? I mean, he did say in this, it was a back and forth with a reporter. Trump did say, we're going to have many guests there. They always do. Both candidates always do. But the question is, who does the media believe? Look, we know the vetting, all right? We know the vetting process right now with, let me see if I can grab this. I'm looking for a story here, and you'll have to excuse me here. This was one of the stories, one of the headlines at thehill.com. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem indicated Sunday that she has not been formally vetted to potentially be former President Trump's vice presidential pick. I don't think she's in consideration at this point. There was talk about her before, I think that's over. But the media has been widely reporting that the following four have been vetted, that received vetting materials. Shockingly, I'm not one of them, and neither is Gary. But the four include North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Senators Marco Rubio of Florida and Tim Scott of South Carolina, and J.D. Vance of Ohio. I have a thought on that coming up. I thought, let Eric do his version of vetting. It's not the same vetting. I mean, let me look at each of them. And we've actually, Gary and I have talked about Tim Scott. I don't see it being Marco Rubio. But there is someone aside from those two, Tim Scott and Marco Rubio, that I don't know. I looked into it over the weekend, and I'm not saying that I think it'll be that person, but I'll tell you who that is coming up. Because, and I'll tell you why I think that if it is that person, why Trump went that direction. And it may already be obvious to a lot of people. If you're paying attention to his campaign, it's probably pretty obvious to you, or maybe it seems obvious to you. 866-90 Red Eye. Let's go to. All right, let's go to Robin in Virginia. Robin, you're on Red Eye Radio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. After realizing I misplaced my driver's license and my Social Security card, I was up getting those in place online to get new ones. So,
oh, wow. That's a headache.
No, I know. Well,
yeah.
So I was up and I heard you guys' show in the past, and I've never had the guts to call. But I wanted to put in my 2 cents.
Sure.
Just on the side of fairness, because I was interested in the topic. And to watch it or not, the one thing is it's really bizarre to me that, it's either going to, obviously it'll be a big turning point or it's going to be like a train wreck. Who knows? But in fairness, I wanted to maybe make a comment that I've really never heard anybody bring up in the past, like a background comment to the whole Trump thing. And I will admit, I voted for Ben Carson in 2016.
Okay.
So I usually vote independent.
Okay.
So I feel like I've been sort of a spectator watching things. And what I've realized, what is so fickle sometimes about politics and people, populations, especially if they're tricked by propaganda and false information and twisted things, whatever. That when Trump had his show, I think The Apprentice, I don't think I watched even a whole one, but it was very popular for years, right?
Yeah, sure.
It was like the water cooler type show. People would talk about it, who was on, sports people, actors, everybody wanted to be on a show. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, and then he goes into politics and all of a sudden he's extremely unpopular and no one likes him.
Yeah.
But there's such a relatability about him. So what I feel like is happening now in the course of the time that Biden's been in, do you remember the old fairy tale called, and I don't hear many people bring this up, but The Emperor's New Clothes?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the unraveling of that, right?
Yeah.
That all the people in powers, those in the know, those in power, those in, who like who they'd like, and they're going to put them in office and they're going to bend everything, that it's like, it's just not there for Biden. It's like, you can try to pull the wool over people's eyes. Maybe this comment has been made before, but I feel like what's really sad is that when there is so much hypocrisy, when Trump had a really popular show on for seasons and seasons and seasons.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, because he's just going to blurt out stuff and say what most people are thinking or whatever. He's very relatable. Didn't they call him like the everyman at one point?
Yeah, in fact, they talk about, Robin, they often talk about he had a better rapport with the construction workers on all of his real estate projects than he did the people in suits.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I just wanted to follow, I know you probably got to go, but it's amazing how when people like people, just like with Bill Clinton,
Mhm.
if you like somebody,
Oh, yeah.
people are more apt to overlook
yeah.
the bad policies
Yep.
and discretion
Yep.
and things that just aren't working for America. So
Yep.
I feel like I almost don't want to watch it. But everyone's going to, that.
Yeah.
So
And Robin, I'm with you on that. Gary and I have talked about it, and thank you for the call. We've talked about how the hypocrisy is there for years on The Apprentice. I mean, everybody loved him, but the left really loved him. He was a celebrity, and they loved him. And then he put an R by his name officially, and he was the devil. And sometimes that's how it goes. And you create these things. What do they create about him? It's all about his words. And what do they have on him? Nothing. In fact, even with his words, they have to omit things to make him sound evil. Charlottesville. We'll get back to your calls in just a moment. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
This is Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara. Gary McNamara has the morning off. Why is that a tongue twister? McNamara mornings. Wait a minute. That sounds like a radio show. McNamara on the mornings, everybody. Gary McNamara has the morning off, and he's back with us tomorrow. He is stranded in Buffalo, and we're going to get to more of your calls on the debate and some thoughts I have on Trump's Veep pick based on the 4 that have been vetted so far. We'll talk about that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara is out this morning. Back with us on tomorrow's show, we hope. He had some flight problems getting home from the big long weekend. Yesterday we were off. We actually had a day that we needed to take, and Gary had a family reunion there in Buffalo. And so he flew back for that, and then maintenance issues kept them on the ground and delayed for a long, long time. And finally, he just had to book another flight for this morning, and he's going to be back on tomorrow's show. And so we'll talk about that the issue with him when he gets back, because he says he's got a story on customer service. So I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm not sure. I'm just going to make some popcorn when he comes back, and we'll see what happens. And he was very apologetic. You should know, going back and forth yesterday. I was outside. I was working in my lawn, trying to get it done fairly early because it was really hot. And I missed his calls as they came in, but he was texting as well, and he was very apologetic. But I told him, I said, hey, don't apologize. It's not within your control, although you could have booked a flight for Sunday. But Sunday was the get-together with his family, so that would have meant missing it. And you should know that he goes back to see his family every time that we have time off, with few exceptions. Memorial Day weekend, he hangs out with friends in Florida, but he's never taken a vacation. Next month will be 19 years, July 15th, that we've been together on this show. So it's really cool. Don't call him my work wife. That's offensive. Not to me, but to others. Might be to him. But, yeah, we've been working together for a long time, and he flies back to see his family on the average of once a month, from Texas to New York. And so I wrote him back and I said, hey, don't feel bad. You get extra time with your dad. That's always a good thing. So we are here the week of the first presidential debate. That's coming up Thursday night, CNN. And we have been talking about this poll from Rasmussen Reports that shows a plurality. What were the numbers? 47% to 37% likely voters believe that Trump will beat Biden. Now, when it comes to age, is age going to present a problem? Rasmussen found that 57% believe Biden is more likely to have problems in the debate because of his age. 32% say Trump will. 34% of Democrats said they believe the first presidential debate is Biden's, quote, last chance, end quote, to show some life in the campaign if he loses. That same group, that 34% of Democrats, believe Biden should be replaced on the ticket. All right. The reason I wanted to point out that last chance was in quotations, because I would really, we've had Scott Rasmussen on the show. He's really great and very good, excellent at what he does. But we've got some questions for that 34%. What do you mean by last chance? What led up to the last chance? What are the things you're talking about? Technically, it's not his last chance. I mean, there's other things. But with you're saying, yeah, this is his last chance. They need to do something if he can't perform on the debate stage. Is it all age related? Are there other issues? I would love to sit down with each of those that constitute that 34% of Democrats in that poll. So we're talking about that. Again, the debate coming up on Thursday night, CNN and News Nation. And Trump saying that his VP pick will likely be there at the debate. Well, you got 4 of them that we know of. We've talked about that, in fact, which 4 have been vetted. It's widely reported. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and then 3 senators, which include Marco Rubio of Florida, Tim Scott of South Carolina, J.D. Vance of Ohio. They've all received vetting requests over the weekend. Governor Kristi Noem says she has not received vetting papers. Not surprising to me. Her name was mentioned early on, and I didn't put much into it even early on. But who are those 4? Okay, again, I'm not saying I believe this will be the person, but I think Gary and I have talked about Tim Scott. First of all, the charisma with Tim Scott, but also being able to sit and talk the issues. I look at Tim Scott as somebody who doesn't flinch, who can talk passionately about the things he believes in and stands for. And I think he would be a great pick. And one of these 4 that I was but I just kind of set aside was North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Here's a guy who's made some money in software. His software company was sold years ago. This goes back to 2000. Microsoft bought the company for $1.1 billion. You'll see a lot of, if you care about somebody's net worth, it's always an estimate. There are some things that they report when they're running for office, but you're still not going to see the true, always see the value of those assets they own. And a lot of the media has it wrong when they say that he's worth $1.1 billion because of the sale to Microsoft or that company, that software company. I think it was called Great Plains Software. And he only owned 10% of that company. So he's worth a measly, based on that, $100 million. So let's not get too crazy about it. But they would love to have. Well, look at it. It's a couple of billionaires running. And by the way, if Burgum is the choice, then you're probably going to see some of that anyway. A couple of rich guys. They don't know anything. They blah 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 blah. Okay, reasons why Trump might pick Burgum. Well, number one, on the road, Burgum with the Trump campaign has been solid, and they've relied on Governor Burgum to do a lot of that campaigning. A pretty good surrogate, an excellent surrogate for Trump, if you look technically at the whole boots-on-the-ground game. Also on energy, he's been a pretty strong energy advisor. That's something that Governor Burgum is, been, I think, as governor, fairly strong on. Now, there have been things where he's talked about carbon neutral and things like that. And, man, I've got some questions if he's going to be the guy. Because Trump has only one term if he wins, and Burgum has to be considered for 28. And so there's a lot of questions going, that would go through your mind in a situation like this, if you're paying attention and you're greatly concerned about it. So, but for the most part, Governor Burgum has fought back on the whole ban on gas stoves and the whole thing from the Biden administration. And we know the Dakotas have been very strong. North and South Dakota have been strong in energy production. And so you look at it at that way and, all right, where does he really stand? I just don't like getting into this game of reaching across the aisle. I want to know what you believe carbon neutral is when you use those words and what you believe those so-called solutions are, because there's no way they don't affect business. So show me the plan. And I know he's been promoting carbon capturing and all of that. But I've got a ton of questions. Now, he's also a real estate developer. That has to certainly appeal to Trump. So you got a governor who's won both times with no problem in terms of his gubernatorial races. Do you need the North Dakota vote if you're Trump? No, you don't. So there's the question. All right. What does Trump need in a vice president in terms of between now and November 5th? I don't know. Because if you look at the polls right now where he is in the battleground states, he's doing well. He's got a pretty hefty lead right now in 4, if not 5 of those key battleground states. So, no, I don't know that he needs someone to carry a state for him. You're looking, is Trump concerned about the future of the party? I think if you asked him, he'd say yes. But right now, he's concerned about November 5th. So, all right, there's that. I don't know, would Burgum even run? He's going to be 68 later this year, which would put him at 72 if he were to run in 28, and then 72 sworn in, in January 29 if he won. So, I don't know, that is apparently not an issue to a lot of people if you're, again, of healthy mind and body, and he appears to be, as far as I know. So there's the case for Doug Burgum. Marco Rubio. All right. So I think for the most part, he's been fairly strong as a senator. I can't make the case for Marco Rubio other than he's been a pretty good surrogate in campaigning for Trump as to why Trump would want him. Not not me. Is he the future of the party? I think he has a strong future of the party. Do I see him as the candidate in 28? I don't know if I do, and I don't know if Trump does, and I don't know if, again, Trump cares. It's about getting through November 5th of 24 first. So it may not even be part of that. So he's been I think he's a prominent figure in the Republican Party. He's been out there in the forefront, so it works. I go back to Tim Scott. Tim Scott, again, doesn't flinch. Not that Marco Rubio does, but I mean, Tim Scott has been, when you want to hear conviction, you want to hear that kind of passion and debating skills. I think Tim Scott is right up there. I think, look, his campaign faltered because I don't think anybody was ever going to take off outside of Trump. DeSantis had some funds coming in. The fundraising was pretty good early on, but it was shaping up to be another Trump season, and there's no way around that. And I always make an example of this, and this is more really about me, but I always joke about this. I was staying in a hotel in Iowa, in Davenport, and I arrived, and there was a Tim Scott event in that hotel that night, and I was unaware of it. And it's tongue-in-cheek, but he wasn't getting the media attention. I'm sure there in the Quad Cities, the local media was all over it. I don't live there, and I had just arrived, so really there was no reason for me to know about that. I don't know who in the national media would have covered him being in Davenport. So it's really tongue-in-cheek. But it's kind of also parallel to kind of how his campaign went. He just didn't get he got some attention. He was on, he was on talk shows and everything else. And I think he gets a lot of attention for the party, like Marco Rubio, in a good way. And he's had a lot of things from the left thrown at him, and he doesn't flinch. J.D. Vance. I don't see it being J.D. Vance. I could give you all the reasons. I just don't see it being J.D. Vance. I could be wrong. I have no idea. I don't see it being J.D. Vance. I think J.D. Vance could be, maybe get a spot in the Trump administration if he won. Maybe. I don't know. But I really think it's between Tim Scott and Burgum. And I guess we'll see at the convention. But the media is going to be all over. If all four of them show up Thursday night to the debate, and I think they'll all be there, I don't know why they wouldn't be there, then you'll now that speculation is just neutral, right? But after Trump telling the reporter, my VP pick will likely be at the debate, and then he went on to say, we're going to have lots of people there, and I'm not going to tell you who it is until around the convention, which is typically when it happens anyway. But the media we're all curious, just going, okay, who's it going to be? And they'll be keeping a close eye. They don't do a red carpet apparently at the at the debates, but they will be watching who's in that audience on the Trump side. And if all four are there, then his comment just kind of goes by the wayside. And we'll see, by the way, if any of those four are approached by the media. I'm sure all of them will be. And what they say will be hyper-analyzed. We're not going to know until around the convention, I'm guessing. All right, we'll get back to your calls. The debate on Thursday night, Trump, Biden. Will Biden be able to perform? Also, the border, SCOTUS, and other things that we'll get to. I would say we have to clear off the desk. We're not to the end of the week. This is just the beginning, so we've got a number of things that Gary, I think, is going to want to chime in on the Wednesday show. So SCOTUS watch is on for some final decisions coming down from the October hearings, October of last year, and also what they've agreed to hear for the next session. One interesting case that we knew was coming. Your thoughts, 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
This is Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara back tomorrow. If you want to join us, 866-90-RED-EYE. We don't have a time to get to a call right now, but after the bottom of the hour, we'll get to more calls, and we will get more into what's going on with the debate, but also some SCOTUS news coming down. One of the cases that they've agreed to hear is not a surprise to me. I'm sure it's not a surprise to Gary. We knew it was actually eventually going to the Supreme Court level. The Supreme Court is going to take up the challenge to ban on gender affirming care. It's not gender affirming care. If we're talking surgery, things that are irreversible, this is for, by the way, underage individuals. And for children, I think it's been clear in our society for a long, long time, to most. And doing something that's irreversible if they're under the age of 18 is reprehensible. But we'll get into that and what the case is all about and when we expect that to reach SCOTUS coming up. Your thoughts, 866-90-RED-EYE.
We have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara back tomorrow, 866-90-RED-EYE. We're talking a number of things. Going to get to more into the Supreme Court and what they've agreed to hear for their next session. So the hearings will be, they'll hear the arguments in October of this year. A decision on the cases coming down next summer. Also, earlier I said next month, the DNC was next month, the Democratic National Convention. My head is in July for some reason. It's in August. Starts August 19th, but in Chicago. But it's, for some reason, I'm in July mode already. Probably because our vacation next week. Oh, by the way, we're on vacation next week. Hey, wait a minute. Gary's just wanting to get more vacation in. All right. Now we got some stuff to talk about. Next week, we will be out on vacation and then coming back with, wow, a full week, the week we come back, because the Trump sentencing date, that will be the 11th. So that will be 2 weeks from this Thursday is when that will come down, July 11th. And we'll see what his sentence is. And then, not long after that, the Republican National Convention will take place in July. It will be next month. And we'll see how that plays out, what's going on there. But the debate coming up, the first presidential debate on CNN and News Nation is going to happen Thursday night. And we'll see where it goes. A lot of people talking about the age of Biden and will he be able to do. I have my doubts about a 90-minute debate. There's 2 breaks. How long are those breaks going to be? Guess we'll see. And as far as I know, they're standing because they use the word podiums, and you stand at a podium. You don't sit down. Maybe they changed that. Maybe they're sitting at a table If they're sitting down, that's CNN showing favoritism to Biden. There's no doubt. And if they go to a break early, if Biden is having a moment like he's had, how many times? Pretty much every time he's been out over the last few weeks, then that debate is over. They can go to a break. If they go to a break early, well, let's take a break and give both candidates time if he's having a moment. That is not a good look. That will not play well for Biden. And I'm anxious to see it. I think a lot of people are. I think producer Allen is right. This could be huge ratings for CNN and News Nation. Huge. Or huge. Let's get back to you. Mary is in Michigan on the comments about Trump's Veep pick. We were talking about the 4 that have been vetted, and he said over the weekend that the Veep pick will likely be at the debate Thursday. Mary, you're on. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I was just concerned about Doug Berman because, here's Trump saying drill, baby, drill, and Doug will be sitting there. Well, what about carbon tax? And I don't think that's going to be very good to get along with.
Yeah, well,
I'm not into that stuff.
I don't know that Burgum has presented a carbon tax idea, and we thank you for the call. He presented the idea of carbon capturing. And again, I don't know what that looks like either. I don't know that he's promoted a carbon tax. I haven't seen anywhere that he has. But I will say that my concerns still remain on the whole carbon capturing, carbon neutral, pledging to be carbon neutral kind of thing and buying into that and then trying to sell that. And the reason is, Gary and I have talked about it for years back in the day when Newt Gingrich said Republicans need to, he was speaking at a breakfast, Republicans need to get it together. And, it's basically implying it's hip to be on top of the whole climate change thing. And I was livid. That's the kind of mentality that degrades the party. We need to just give in because it's the hip thing to do. Well, it's like the Supreme Court case on that they agreed to. Word got out over the weekend that the Supreme Court is going to take up the ban on gender affirming care. Why is everyone saying gender affirming care? Care? If it's mutilation, that's not care. If it's irreversible for a minor, it's not care. And by the way, this case is based on minors, those under 18, out of Tennessee. Well, because the first person said care. And because somebody started with the whole, carbon neutral. Can you even prove that? Can you even prove what you're trying to sell? Show me that math. Well, we take these two issues here on the whole gender affirming care and carbon neutral. That's the same side promoting both. And one of them is clearly delusional in its thought. Well, that man can be a woman by saying so. Forget about hormones or surgery even. Well, you're delusional. But it's carbon neutral. Well, who told you it was carbon? Well, that's what everybody says. I don't care what everybody says. Well, that's what everybody calls it. So you just get in line? Yeah. That's what sheep do. That's stupid. And we need to end this madness. And I don't know where the Supreme Court case is going to go because the 3 young people in Tennessee that are at the core, I think it's a total of 3, that are at the core of this case out of Tennessee. There's a 16-year-old transgender girl, 13-year-old transgender boy, and another 16-year-old transgender boy. And they've received puberty blockers and testosterone therapy. The 16-year-old transgender boy, has received puberty blockers and testosterone therapy. The other two, I think, have also received puberty blockers and hormone therapy. If it's irreversible and medical personnel are involved in it, they should go to jail. We don't do this to minors. I don't know where the Supreme Court is going to come out on this. I'd like to believe they're going to see it for what it is, dangerous. If those individuals want to do this after they're 18, they make decisions for themselves, then okay. If they want to dress a certain way, okay. If they want to behave a certain way, all right. Things that are irreversible, no. They're children. And the parents are involved here, too, of these three individuals, and the doctors. You're trying to appease adolescents, number one. And if you're the parents, unless you are also a doctor, you don't know. And if you're a doctor who believes that this irreversible actions for minors are okay, you should never be a doctor again. Therapy? Okay. If they want to behave like the opposite sex, none of my business. But as a society, irreversible surgeries and treatments, no. Not for underage, not for kids. And that's where it's all going. This is the fight right here. We told you, Gary and I have been talking about it. It's going to get to the Supreme Court. It's not the only case, but it will get to the Supreme Court. Now, some have argued that these three individuals don't have standing when it comes to surgeries because they haven't selected surgery, and they're not, as far as we know, at least up to the point that this story came out, they are not asking for surgery. I'd have to go back and check and see if there's an update on any of those three, if they're trying to have that surgery. But we'll see where the Supreme Court goes with it. Could it be a narrow ruling? It might be. Depends on, it's going to depend on the arguments and ultimately the remedy they're asking for. But the fact is that we can't allow this for children. The parents want to take their kids to the doctors and they want to have discussions and they want to go into therapy to make sure that this is what they want and how they want to live. I don't have any say-so in that. But we can't allow these irreversible actions to happen on children. We just can't. If it's surgery, it's mutilation. And if they turn 25 and decide, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe the adults in my life not only allowed it, but helped me make it happen when I was 13, 16. That's insane. That is insane. And we have to stop living in this delusional world. Whatever that adolescent is going through, then they deserve attention for whatever they're going through. They don't deserve, in fact, should never get anything that can't be reversed. I don't know what that's like. But if they're going through something, it's good that the family and doctor should be involved. Great. Up to the point of surgery. Up to the point of anything irreversible, which includes, by the way, hormones, depending on how they're being administered. Can't let that happen. They can do whatever they want when they're 18. Not when they're 13. They're minors. Because then what? If the Supreme Court were to come down and say, all right, nope, Tennessee can't ban the so-called gender-affirming care. Well, then what elective surgeries could minors have on their own even? And does it have to be conditional? Do the parents have to be involved if the doctors are okay with it? If the parents disagree and the doctors are okay with it? All these cases will hit the Supreme Court. All these cases will rise to the top. And I can't wait until October to hear the arguments in this case out of Tennessee at the Supreme Court. I really can't. Again, I feel for any adolescent, and all adolescents go through a number of things. If they're going through something, then the parents should be involved. And if necessary, doctors should be involved, up to the point that it can't be reversed. That's where you hit the brakes. And we've always known that. So what's going on now? If you want to join in, we'll take your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara is back on tomorrow's show. All right, just got a short segment here, so we'll try and get to some calls after the top of the hour and some other things that we'll talk about from the weekend. I know that Gary is going to want to chime in on, well, pretty much everything, and we'll let him do that when he returns on tomorrow's show. Then we'll get to your calls here in just a bit on Supreme Court, on the debate between Biden and Trump on Thursday night. What's that going to look like? What are the conventions going to look like? Man, it's going to be an interesting summer, no doubt.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara has the morning off. He is back with us on tomorrow's show talking about SCOTUS hearings and talking about the debate coming up this Thursday night. I'm sure Gary has a lot that he wants to try. Wait, I'm just getting word. Hold on. I'm getting word that Gary McNamara is joining us live from Buffalo, where he's been covering whatever's going on in Buffalo for Red Eye Radio for the last 3 days. Good morning, Gary McNamara.
Oh man, I'm telling you, this is just very quickly. This is the best story ever. I was just talking to Alan before I got on with you, and my flight's fine for this morning. Everything is cool.
All right,
but they never canceled my flight. This is the first time ever that I've not been able to get, where I'm going because of maintenance repair. Weather, yeah, but never maintenance repair.
Yeah.
So my original flight was 6:40 yesterday and supposed to get in about 8:30 into Dallas in the morning. And I've done that many times, and there's plenty of time, and we never really worry about it.
Right.
Well, this flight, they had mechanical problems on it, battery problems, whatever. And so there wasn't another flight out of Buffalo the entire day, not one seat. There were flights. There wasn't one seat that I could get, and I checked everywhere, and that's the first time that's ever happened to me. But the interesting thing is they never canceled that original flight. In fact, they kept moving it back.
Yeah.
That flight now leaves here at 8 o'clock this morning if the repairs are done. So my flight that I'm on is at 6:40 this morning, which was the original scheduled, that original scheduled flight they have every day.
Yeah.
So I'll actually beat myself home.
Your original seat will arrive after you actually get home. Wow.
Yes.
Well,
yes. My original upgraded first class seat, and now I'm in coach with the cattle.
You.
Yes, me. How can I possibly survive without the luxury of that free first class upgrade that I've earned for flying so many millions of miles over the last 50 years?
Yeah, that's BYOB and everything. So yeah, I've decided it's your fault because remember last week you were saying you were talking about your family reunion and everything else, and you said because the event was actually on Sunday, and and due to circumstances well within our control, we took Monday off, and so we had Monday off, and you were going to attend a great family reunion, and then you said early Monday morning I'll fly home, plenty of time, and see that's where you jinxed it, and then we talked about you being on Boeing aircraft, and it just went south from there, and so sure enough. It takes apparently that long. I don't know. Did they have to replace one of the wings? How does that even take so long? I mean, how do they not even get a plane? I mean, because I understand. I mean, by the way, we want to make sure that it's like 75% okay to fly. Every plane in the air should be at least 75%. And I've been there. I've been, sorry, the plane broke or maintenance, they'll just say maintenance issue usually. And we can't get you there. And then you have to make other arrangements. But, it's quite often, I won't say every time. I don't even know if it's most often, but quite often, hey, we brought another plane in. And you were telling me, okay, by the way, this is the first time I'm telling you, I missed your phone calls, both phone calls. I was outside. I was working before it got too hot, and I came in during my breaks, and that's when I saw that you had called. That's why I didn't answer your calls. And I wasn't ignoring you. It's McNamara again. That's just great. Don't answer it. But, yeah, and you were saying maybe they'll bring in, when you texted me, maybe they'll bring in a plane, another plane. We don't know. And it was really uncertain. But, I mean, you're kind of usually given something to go on, because
well, that was, that's really interesting, Eric, because planes are going to break. Things are going to happen, and you want them to fix it. But I will say this: when I eventually when I talked to customer service, they were great. But and I've flown American Airlines, really exclusively for the last it would be 27 years, I think. And just built up the miles and everything else, and with it come the amenity and the benefits of flying all the time on the same airline, and that's great to have. But I'm telling you, when you find out, because they give you the information now, when your incoming plane came in. Mm-hmm. This plane came in 3:30 on Sunday afternoon. They knew at that point, because I'm well known here. I've got a lot of my old friends that work here at the airport.
Oh yeah.
And I found out what it was. That it was a battery thing, and they said it shouldn't be any problem. I said, well, they haven't fixed it yet. And what happened is when I came in here at 4 a.m, it was right at this time where they delayed it, and went to 10 o'clock, and then it went to 1 o'clock, then to 4 o'clock, then to 7 o'clock, then to 9 o'clock, then to 8 o'clock this morning. They kept moving it back. Now, I don't know if they're going to have a new airplane or not, but the fact is they had a plane that they knew had a problem, and they didn't communicate with the people saying, look, we're going to delay this. They waited till everybody got to the airport and then delayed the flight.
Yeah.
And that really ticked off a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then because it was like, all you have to do is just communicate with us. And the other thing that people couldn't understand is, well, why do you have a plane in here and it takes you, 15 hours to get a mechanic, somebody from maintenance in? And they said, and this is the beautiful one, well, look, maintenance doesn't come in till 10 a.m. on Monday.
Wow.
I'm not kidding
They
you.
get to
Maintenance
sleep
doesn't come in.
Wow.
Maintenance doesn't come in till 10 a.m. And I mean, now I've dealt with a bunch of stuff in my life and I've learned to row with the flow. But I mean, I actually was chuckling because some of the passengers were so furious. And then they initially at the gate communicated, with us if you went up in person, but they never, I was here for 9 hours and they never made an announcement.
Wow.
And so that's when I finally called the customer service another time and then got on the flight here and just said, do you know, what is going on? We're given no information.
Right.
And then they pulled the plane away. And we thought a new plane was going to come in. Then they delayed it 3 hours and they delayed it 6 hours. And it was like, all right, I'm out of here. I'll catch the flight in the morning.
Yeah.
And because there was not, they actually checked 2 other airlines, which they never do anymore. They used to do that all the time where you could take the ticket. And I guess my status is so high where they did it, and there was not another seat on another plane coming out of Buffalo.
Wow.
And that's to Dallas direct. Well, only American goes Dallas direct. Well, I think Southwest has a couple of flights a day, but I don't think they deal with Southwest. But that's all the connections. That's American to New York, from here, New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, Charlotte. Am I missing? Might be missing one in there, but all those. I think there's 5 places that they connect from Buffalo to Dallas. None of them, not one seat.
Wow.
That's never happened.
Wow.
Never happened.
Wow.
And so that was like, and me, I just hate. I like you. We hate being off of work.
Yeah. Well, especially when it's out of our control, it's just it's frustrating. It really is.
It is.
But I texted you and said, look, you get a few extra hours with your dad. That's not a bad thing. So at least there was that. And
you'll like this because when you said before maintenance, I kept telling my dad maintenance every time I said maintenance because we were so busy over the weekend that. Yeah. Last night, I just sat, the television was on low, and I got to, have a one-on-one for a couple of hours with my father, which was great. Mm. And every time I said maintenance, he said, well, it's not maintenance, it's repair.
Exactly.
And I kept using that word maintenance because it's what the airlines always use. It's maintenance, it's maintenance. He goes, it's not maintenance, it's repair.
Exactly.
I'd say it again 5 minutes later, Gary, it's not maintenance, it's repair.
That's so funny. By the way, the great mind of an engineer, and still a great mind, John McNamara, and also very pragmatic because I'm not an engineer, but that's one of the things I thought of. I thought because that's the language they use. It's maintenance. No,
yes,
because then you ask, well, is it scheduled maintenance? Because you had a flight booked at this time with a lot of people on it. It was a packed plane. Not a good time to schedule maintenance. Well, no, the plane broke. And that's, by the way, that was used a few times with me over the years. The plane broke. Well, that sounds kind of third grade. Don't say, my plane broke. Just say that we have to do some repairs and it's going to take longer than we expected. Because when you oversimplify, the plane broke. It's like, how long have you been in aviation? Or out of high school.
The plane is broken.
Yeah, it broke. Mine broke. Yeah.
I'll let you know. That again. I'm on a Boeing 737-800.
All right. Well, good luck with that. It'll be fine. It's at least 75%. And that's all we ask. Just give us a 75% plane.
Well, you figured these dang batteries that they're using now for planes. I was wondering. I was going to ask the question. Now, are you still using jet fuel, or is this battery running this thing?
It's an EV plane, and we have to recharge it. It's going to take 9 months. Oh my gosh, that's.
But but overall, I mean, like I said, you get bad customer service, and I did yesterday, but I got good customer service from the customer service representative that I talked to, so on the phone.
Yeah.
So it's always a mixed bag, but I'm telling you, it's so important to have good customer service, and you and I, we've always talked about management flow charts and management in general, and how they, how you communicate a message to the workers out there. And it's still the biggest problem that I think industry has in business throughout the entire world. We can do a lot of technical stuff, but we still can't communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, one of the most frustrating things that I've seen. Look, we can't communicate effectively. Well, we can, but others can't communicate effectively when it comes to politics and, where the nation's going or whatever. And there's so much BS in there. And you just wonder, do people just think, well, nobody cares anymore. They're BS'd all the time. We can just throw anything at them. Yeah. It always sits in the back of your mind.
Exactly. I mean, last hour I was touching on the whole, the phrasing of things, gender affirming care for minors. Well, it's not gender affirming care. It's not care. And carbon neutral. They just make these phrases up, and then everybody just repeats them down the line. And
I saw that yesterday. It was a WFAA story, I believe, out of Dallas that talked about gender affirming care, and I'm just like, it's not gender affirming care.
Not gender affirming care. And now the Supreme Court, and we'll talk more about this when you get back, but the Supreme Court decided to take one of the cases out of Tennessee that involves 3 minors, and 2 16-year-olds and a 13-year-old. But they're all minors, and that that will be on the docket for the oral arguments in October, and then decisions coming down next summer. And it's insane when we look at these things. But getting back to the language of it all, people just, and it hit me yesterday. It's like they just start saying something, they throw it out there. The media, of course, takes it and runs with it, because they're looking for it to sound positive. They want it to sound noble. They want it to sound good and positive. But when you say, hey, we want genital mutilation for this child, that sounds very different. And there's no way around the fact that it is, if you're talking surgery.
Oh, yeah, that's just a tad of a difference, I believe.
Yeah.
Just a tad of a difference there.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, so did you talk at all about – I forget where we went on the air. I'm just talking to Eric.
Hey, what'd you cover, man?
But did you hit because the whole Jake Tapper thing and everything else, and then the spokesperson getting kicked off of CNN?
Yeah, I haven't played the audio from that yet. I did touch on the Jake Tapper thing, and I think we'll explore more of it tomorrow. As we lead up to the debate, it's going to be very interesting. We talked about the Rasmussen Reports poll that had a plurality of people thinking that Trump is likely going to win. 47-37, I think, were the numbers there. But a number of Democrats in that poll, and the respondents leaned more left than they did right. And in that poll, 34% of Democrats believed it was Biden's, and they put quotations around the words last chance to basically prove himself. Otherwise, somebody else needs to be the nominee. And so I got a lot of questions. Maybe we can get Scott Rasmussen to do a separate poll for us. But, yeah, it's all these things leading up to Thursday night. And still my doubt. Oh, by the way, something you may have missed, I endorsed Doug Burgum for president. But anyway, so anyways,
I missed that.
No, we were talking about the 4 that have been vetted, and then I was going through why and you and I can hash that out tomorrow too.
Okay.
Why
cool.
if Trump is to choose this person, why? In other words, why are any of these four up there? Then J.D. Vance, Tim Scott, Rubio, and Governor Burgum, and then we talk about that. And with Burgum, all right, he's wealthy, but he's successful. I think that's the way we would look at it. And also the fact that he's now, he's been a real estate developer for years. That's certainly but he's been a very strong surrogate and advisor for the Trump campaign. So, that's, again, why would Trump choose him? While most of the nation is looking at it and not looking at Burgum, he doesn't have the stage, but behind the scenes, and that's kind of how Trump works. And so we'll see if it is or not. But we got to get to a break.
Cool.
You have a safe flight home. I'm sure everything will be fine. It'll be fine.
It's 75% ready to go.
It's 75% there, and it's already on. It's already going to be good.
I talked to the repair guy, and he said it's acceptable.
We'll get most of the way there. It'll be good.
All right, Eric. We'll see you tonight then.
All right, we'll see you tonight. All right.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Thank you. We will also get to your calls coming up. We're going to get to a break now. 866-90 Red Eye. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara, you just heard, is getting on a plane shortly to get back to Texas and then back on the show tonight. Lots to cover as we go through the week. Again, most of it is going to be about the debate, but also we'll get his thoughts tomorrow on Supreme Court stuff. There's decisions that we can pick apart, too, from this session, but also what's next year look like, and Trump's deep pick, throwing that around, and more. Your calls coming up after the break.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
I'm Eric Harley, Gary McNamara, back on the Wednesday show. We just heard from Gary. If you missed that segment, he called in. He was delayed getting out of Buffalo. He's going to be on a plane in a matter of minutes, I think. They're going to start boarding. Now boarding at gate B4. So I don't know what time. He probably said what time his flight is, but it's this morning, and he's going to get back early. And so I think he said it was going to leave before the delayed flight he was originally supposed to be on, which is now taking off this morning instead of yesterday morning. So, yeah, it's going to be because I also am putting my mindset is on Central Time, and he's 4:35 right now in Buffalo. So it's going to be an interesting week. The debate coming up on Thursday night. And, okay, let's say let's say both of them get through the debate. Wow. Let's say the debate happens and there are only a couple of moments with Biden, or maybe even no moments, right? Let's just say that whatever magic potion he's using works. And they go back and forth because on the issues, it's going to be about the economy. It's going to be about the border. Those are the two biggest issues. It's going to be, I think, well, for me, very clear. But Biden can't say anything on the border that will favor him, that will make him look better, because, as we've been saying, and Gary has coined the phrase, Democrats, Joe Biden and the Democrats can't fix the problem because they created the problems. And he has to own that. So the question is, if a debate that happens, which, again, if there are no other issues on the debate, they get through it, how will it come off? The sound bites are going to be whatever CNN wants them to be, but News Nation is also showing it. I don't know. I don't know how many minds you change at this point. And by that, I mean, I actually don't know. Because you've got your base on both sides. I think that the base for Trump, the support has grown since the verdict came down. And that's in the polls, that's what's showing. And how big is that? Is it enough to last through November 5th? I believe it is, because lawfare's not going away. That's not going to change. In fact, I think the case with special prosecutor is actually making it worse all over again. Are they paying attention to that as much as they were paying? Most people, I mean, paying attention as much as they were with the verdict? No, because the verdict was big news. I said it before it came down, that it's going to get the attention of people who aren't paying attention. So with the Jack Smith case against Trump, Trump's lawyers yesterday making a very good point in that the federal government case, when it comes to a special prosecutor, there really is no end in the budget. They're not going to cap the budget. So they've got a ton of money that they can spend here. There is that. And then the whole thing about the gag orders and all of that, which is ridiculous. He's campaigning for president. And unless he accuses, somebody, Jack Smith, of, something directly, I mean, if there were, slander or libel issues, then that would be a civil case that they could pursue. But beyond that, you expect him to talk about the cases against him. And if he gets something wrong, then the truth can be found out. You got something wrong by bringing the case against him. So now what? And I think that, again, assuming, just for the sake of the moment, that nothing goes wrong with Biden on stage Thursday night, if that is the case, I think it will, again, it is going to get down to the issues and also, the other aesthetics. Trump owns a room that he goes into, of course. That does not apply to CNN. Alan, I don't know if I can get this. Let me see if I've got this saved here. Hold on just a second. I got a lot going on over here, as you can imagine. I'm doing the work of 1.5 people. Yeah, do the math there. All right. Now, got a couple of moments here that I want to play there because, and we may replay these if I can get them played here before we get out of here this morning. I don't have them bookmarked, but I'm gonna get them so we can play them at some point before we go this morning. And Gary, I'm sure, is going to want to replay and analyze these cuts from the moderators at CNN, including Jake Tapper. But I don't know, for all of us that are paying attention, do we need to see, do we need to hear it? I do think it's important, but it's something we already know about Jake Tapper. It's something we already know about CNN. Over the years, they've gone after Trump in every possible way. What is different now is the toxicity has waned quite a bit for Trump. It's not completely gone with the hardcore left. But with the average American, I think I can say this safely. It's not what it was. And that's a problem for the left. Here's what happened over the weekend. My wife and I were traveling to see a loved one. And we stayed in a hotel. First time since March, I think, that I've stayed in a hotel. I stayed when I was traveling for work in March, but stayed in a hotel. And the other night, my wife turns the TV on. I rarely watch TV, but she turned it on and turned it over to CNN. And a promo came on for the debate. And they had a video clip, as a part of the promo of Trump, where they didn't make it look bad at all. They didn't make him look bad at all in that clip. And I thought, So I turned the TV off because I'm not going to keep watching CNN. Don't be silly. But I said to my wife, I said, what did you notice there? Trump sounded good. In other words, they were showing a clip of him talking about these are the things we want to do. You know, he mentioned a couple of things, and it was only a few seconds. But I almost fully expected for them to bring a clip of him, rolling his eyes at one of the debates or something like that, one of those moments. Because it's CNN. Why wouldn't they? But in that promo, and it's just that promo, that clip of Trump looked normal, actually looked good. Actually, if you were listening to that clip, it was like, oh, wait, I want to hear more. Of course, that's the point. They want you to watch it. But the bias at CNN has been known for. It's gone far beyond bias. They're activists. No way around it. You can try and say, well, no, we're independent. We're journalists. You're activists. When you go that hard, there's no other way to see it. Sorry. And so we'll see what happens. I fully expect as moderators, it's going to be exactly what we would expect. The only thing you can do in a situation like that is you control what you say. You can't control what they say. And we go back to 2020. Chris Wallace, the moderator, asking Biden a question about Charlottesville. And Chris Wallace lied in that question. He lied by omission because he left out the entire quote. And he was asking it to Biden. It was a softball pitch, and that's exactly what we would expect by Chris Wallace, even when he was at Fox News. We all knew it. We all saw it. And we said that, Gary and I talked about it after that, when they came back to Trump. If I were Trump, I would have said, Chris, you just lied to the American people. Read my entire quote from Charlottesville. Read my entire quote from Charlottesville. And here's what I'll say about redirection and controlling the conversation. In terms of saying what he wants to say, I'm not saying he always says things that are positive for him. Sometimes he goes on a rant. But I'll say this. nobody's better or nobody is known for saying what they want to say like Donald Trump. If he wants to say something, boom. And again, sometimes to a fault. And that's the advice I would give. Take the question, whatever the question is. And if you need to, you set it aside and you get on your agenda and go after your opponent. That's what everybody else does or tries to do. And one of the problems I've had, the concerns I've had with President Trump over the years is, again, he would engage. And he'll stop and go back and forth. The day Jim Acosta got kicked out of the media room, they were talking about legal immigration versus illegal. And Trump was promoting, we need more people here because we're creating jobs. So many companies are going to be moving here. And we need people here legally. And, of course, the media kind of carved that part out of it and only showed you them kicking the victim, Jim Acosta, out of that room. Well, then there was the sit-down interview with Stephanopoulos. And I don't know if you remember this. Stephanopoulos asking him, hey, are you worried they're going to come after you after you're no longer president? And, you know, he kind of engaged in that moment. And I would have said, as a sitting president, here are the things, George, that keep me awake at night. Our border, the security of our nation. What happens to me is not the point. And if I lose sleep right now as president, it's going to be over those things that are important to a nation. But that's just me. I think Trump is more in that zone now than he's ever been. Listening to him talk in recent weeks, I think he's more in that zone because I think the whole thing with the lawfare, I don't think it's taught him a lesson, but it certainly made things very real. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't learn a lesson. I'm just saying that I think he's already known that lesson of that they'll come after you after the Russian hoax and everything else. And I think it's just getting down to the wire. And things are very real. So you can redirect on that debate stage. You control what you say. And that's all you have to worry about. And he's very good at doing that when he's focused on it. Another thing, too, is, again, people, and this is just the way we work. Oh, the good old days. Oh, the good old days. When it comes to the economy, when it comes to the border, those good old days were during Trump's first term. That's how far back you have to go. Not 20, 40 years. Back to 2019. When prices were much lower, you had greater spending power, and we had a president who wanted to secure the border, not the opposite. We'll get to more of your calls and more about the debate. So much going on this week. Eric Harley, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Eric Harley. Gary McNamara back on tomorrow's show. Coming up, we've got some audio we'll play for you if you need it to see how, not just biased, but how much of the CNN crew are activists and what will be on, I think, full display on Thursday night and on the debate stage, no doubt. But we've got some audio on that, your calls. More SCOTUS information coming up, 866-90-RED-EYE.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.